afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrew Higashi. I'm from Microsoft. I'm a part of our mobility practice. I lead our automotive and logistics portfolio. I also cover shipping. Super excited to be here at the FourKites Summit. Today's supply chains are more complex. They're more dynamic and more interconnected than before. And yet many organizations are still relying on visibility tools that tell them what's happening or what's happened, but not what to do about them. Let me just take a poll. If you could raise your hand if your dashboard showcased yesterday's data or a day before. Okay, I see a few hands out there. And so this session is really about how do we move beyond visibility? How do we then transform with AI and agents? And what I'll do is I'll walk through a perspective on supply chain, some of its evolutions. I'll focus then on AI and agents and how Microsoft views the evolution of that and how that will evolve. And then I'll go through an example where we've used agents within our Surface supply chain devices. Okay, and one thing to note is the AI, leveraging AI in supply chain is not about chasing the next trend. It's really about harnessing the power of AI for intelligence and orchestration. So expectations have evolved quite rapidly. And so what I have here is just kind of a timeline over the past 5 years on how expectations have evolved. And so in 2020, when the pandemic hit, there was work from home, and this created demand and supply imbalances, shortage in parts and supplies. There were large amounts of quality variations. There were also inflation concerns, and supply chains were really about getting through it. How can we brute force our way through this? How do we put long hours, manual intervention to get through this? And so in the past 4 years, it became about gaining visibility, and we had siloed data in all different places, and how do we bring our data and our systems together so that we can gain visibility across the supply chain, across the tiered supply base, and then move towards being able to then manually intervene and optimize. Okay. Then as we advanced to 23 and 24, it became about mitigating risks out there, and how do we create more resiliency in the supply chain? How do we quantify the risk? How do we then create a next best action to avoid the risk and then be proactive about that? And so we use scenario planning for these risks and challenges to be able to quantify and then react. And now we're talking about how do we do more and differentiate? And this is predominantly with AI and agents. And so how can we leverage AI and agents to solve our current challenges with resiliency, with things like tariffs, and not only gain visibility, but move from being reactive to a proactive supply chain. And the real pursuit is not just about AI and agents. It's really around how do we drive cost out and optimize that? How do we improve our worker experience? Can we shift from being reactive to proactive? And how do we mitigate risks? And then also, can we navigate the changing regulatory environment, namely tariffs, leveraging technology to be more resilient in this process? So the current state of today's supply chain provides visibility. But these are static dashboards with yesterday's data, often with reactive reporting and isolation. And these control towers often have siloed data across the tiered supply chain. And often require manual analysis when you find issues that arise. For example, if there's a delayed shipment, you may receive hundreds of alerts, but it's challenging to sort through what to actually do next with that, without intelligent prioritization of these alerts. Secondly is if there's a warranty issue, say I deal with automotive and manufacturing. If there's a warranty issue all the way at the end of the supply chain and support, tracking and tracing that issue across the supply chain, is it in the logistics or assembly, or is it in manufacturing, or is it in one of the tier supply bases, and being able to then go through the silos and understand where that problem came for is a big challenge. Okay. What we have on the right-hand side is supply chain of the future, where the data silos are removed, where access is real-time, and AI and intelligence is then built onto that data. And then orchestration and actioning can happen through AI agents. And so these supply chains are both, one is collaborative and two is intelligent. So collaborative and orchestration, so moving from siloed visibility to network coordination across suppliers, carriers, warehouses, and customers. So if a shipment is delayed, instead of a phone call or an email or a long reply-all chain, with a single collaboration platform, you can have real-time visibility where everyone can see the same ETA, the disruption alerts, risk scoring, and instead of having emails going back and forth, you can have a single workflow, digital workflow with AI-driven alerts. And so it shifts collaboration from being reactive to being proactive. The second is around providing intelligent automation. Okay? And so breaking down the silos allows for data to go across, allows for that collaboration, but then you can put intelligence and reasoning on top of the data that goes across to transform things like exception management. And one example is like if a shipment is delayed at the border, instead of learning about it when it happens, you can leverage the historical data to reason through the past shipments and flag the shipment before it happens instead of finding out when it happens. And then you can provide a next best action based on that to expedite or alternative shipment from a different distribution center instead. Okay? So ultimately, AI can create a competitive advantage for you by optimizing the network performance while coordinating the responses across the suppliers, your logistics partners, and customers. Okay. So to kind of take a step back and shift gears on how we view AI at Microsoft and how it will evolve. So our approach to AI is really across two big areas, and it's across co-pilots and agents. And so co-pilots, put simply, is the UI for AI. So it provides support to humans through natural language to be able to interface with AI and agents. And agents are the second way. And I know there's a whole lot of different definitions around agents, so we'll spend some time talking about what we mean by agents. Okay. So what are agents? Agents are programs that use AI to automate and execute business processes working alongside people or teams or organizations. And so when most people think about agents, they think about the agents that are all the way to the right, the autonomous agents. But there's really a spectrum of agents that exist. So the first is around retrieval, being able to go back and get information for you, and I'll walk through a couple of examples here. The second is around task connected to specific workflows or processes. Their primary purpose is to automate repetitive tasks. And the third is around autonomous operating independently, dynamically planning and learning from the process and able to adapt and change dynamically. So some organizations are more advanced that are working on autonomous, and some are more focused on retrieval. And even some tasks you may actually be operating in multiple areas at the same time. So we've seen many demos around agents and what they are and how they work. I know FourKites has deployed many of them. We've seen examples of them. They've also have inbound agents that do automated vendor communication and receiving coordination, proof of delivery, order to pick up orchestration, intelligent claims processing, to name a few. Okay. So how will agents and AI evolve? Okay, so we see the progression happening across three different patterns. The first is on the left-hand side. You have the human with the assistant leveraging co-pilots. And so this is the AI augmenting what the humans are doing. An example could be, let's say you have regulatory requirements or compliance that goes across countries, and you need to understand what are the different regulations across countries. And what you can do is you can put all of that into one place, and you can leverage an AI assistant, ground the AI assistant in that data, and be able to, the human assistant can interact with that agent to then get the information faster. The second pattern is where you have a mix of human and agent teams. And so this is where you have, on the previous page, more of the task-oriented or the autonomous agents that are working for you. And so a human can then work with agents defined for specific tasks and send them off and do them and to come back. These are a few of the examples that I shared on the previous that FourKites has. And the third is really around human-led and agent-operated. So you have larger workflows and tasks that AI agents can go off and do semi-autonomously to autonomously on their own with very little human oversight. One thing to note as you evolve across these patterns is there's a significant amount of cultural change that's required. So we talk a lot about the technology behind agents, but the cultural change is probably the hardest piece here in this new world around AI transformation. And so we can put the tools in front of people, but there's a significant change management as well as business process reimagination that happens as we leverage agents. The second thing to note is as work changes for people with agents, they're able to focus more on the higher value-added tasks in the planning process as well versus being bogged down by more of the tactical. Okay, so let me walk through an example of where we are using agents in our supply chain planning process for our Surface product. Okay, so our Surface team, supply chain team, faces the typical challenges. Planners are manually monitoring thousands of SKUs, watching for delays, coordinating across teams, and trying to maintain optimal inventory levels. The team had visibility, but replanning efforts were often manual, challenging, and it was hectic. So they built a custom co-pilot solution and agent, tools that weren't designed to replace their job, but really to augment them. An example that where they use this AI assistant in their workflow in a semi-autonomous way. So let's walk through a few of these capabilities that we have listed here. The first is around a Q&A and analytics. So planners can use natural language to ask questions like which SKUs are at risk this week, or what's driving the spike in demand for this particular region. And the assistant will respond by pulling insights from live data, and there's less digging through spreadsheets or leveraging the dashboards, but really interfacing with the agent through natural language. The second is really around alerts and notifications. So the system proactively is able to flag delays, inventory risks, or supplier issues before they become big problems. So it notifies downstream teams, automatically ensures alignment and faster responses. Then it moves to a recommendation engine. So it not only is able to understand what's happening, but then it's able to then look at trends and anomalies, and the assistant suggests actions, whether it's adjusting the forecast, rerouting shipments, escalating a supplier issue. And so it's not based on static rules, but it's dynamic, data-driven insights. And the third is around semi-autonomous, and this is action-oriented. So it doesn't just inform, but it's able to act. It brings the recommendations, but then with human oversight, it's able to, planners are able to stay in control and focus on the strategic decisions while the agent goes and acts upon it. The agent has a few other capabilities, so scenario planning. What makes this truly powerful is that it can model different scenarios that are happening. So what if scenarios, what if demand spikes in this region? What should we do? How should we respond? If a supplier misses a shipment, if the tariff changes next quarter, there can be recommendations for these different scenarios. It's also prescriptive, as I described, so it's moving from just reactive to prescribing. and it evaluates the constraints, the model outcomes, and recommends that optimal plan. So they've used this to forecast demand, optimize inventory across global data centers, and even surface insights for warranty claims. Okay. To add to this, it wasn't about just building a one-off tool around planning and a few agents. What they've also done is they built an agentic platform that brings a bunch of agents together that are able to be deployed across multiple workflows. So the platform was meant to be a suite of applications that eliminate these manual tasks. It improves the decision-making and enables proactive versus reactiveness. And so other agents that were built were things like Clear to Build, which validated the SKU readiness for production, tailored for the build spec compliance. So it then confirmed things with suppliers. And within the first year, we deployed 7 different applications, saved over 10,000 hours, and significant cost savings. Okay. And so this platform gave our planners and operators the ability to be able to create agent applications that would help them kind of move from this reactive state to a proactive state and integrate with other supply chain systems out there, not just in the planning phase, but also then integrate into other systems like on the execution side. So to kind of wrap it up, just 4 key takeaways. One is visibility is great, but it alone is not enough to differentiate these days. AI-powered control towers are the future, and what they're doing is they're increasing collaboration, they're creating intelligence and helping you to move from being reactive to proactive. Agents and co-pilots are what's enabling these control towers of the future. And so these are the game changers, and building agents to empower your people and to do things are what's going to lead you to the control towers of the future. And lastly, cultural change is one of the hardest things to do across this AI transformation. It's working with your people, helping them to adopt the technology, helping them to understand that this is helping them do their job better and do more at their job. And that has been the hardest part of these transformations that we've been a part of. All right. That's it. So thank you.